Yes, Mr. President, I told you that is indeed a sin. You need to repent. Yes, the sacrament of reconciliation, you can go there. You can receive the grace and mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ. But you can't continue to support this. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I understand. Oh, we're live. Hey, welcome back to the Catholic Citizen. We're talking the COVID relief bill, marijuana, and one of the greatest evils that humanity has ever faced in just a moment. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Catholic Citizen, episode number 18, where we're talking the COVID relief bill, marijuana, as well as the greatest evil humanity has ever faced in just a moment. I'm sorry about the phone call. You know, Joe calls me every once in a while to talk about things of the faith, and I'm trying to convince him of the intrinsic reality, the intrinsic evil of abortion. He's just not listening to me, but I'm going to work on him, continue to try to direct his soul to Jesus. But please pray for our president, Mr. Biden, and please pray for me. And please support AWAKEN Catholic. How else are we going to get the truth out there unless we have your help to do just that? Please go to awakencatholic.org/donate and help us out. And somebody corrected my math last week. If you donate $200, that means I would get $40, which is much more than just a couple cups of coffee. So I tremendously appreciate your support, particularly of the AWAKEN Catholic show. I'm really only doing this so that I can be rich one day. So please help me achieve my goals. No, I'm just kidding. But secondly, I want you to be a part of our community that we have growing here at the AWAKEN Catholic app. It's just a great place where we get to kind of talk about these issues in a respectful manner. You know, we don't always talk about these issues publicly in a very respectful manner when it comes to politics, but you can do that on the AWAKEN Catholic app. So please download it on your phone today. Lastly, I want to mention Casa Bea Cleaning. Casa Bea Cleaning is maybe the best cleaning agency there ever has been in human history, and that's why you need to support them. Beyond that, they are also pro-life. They're supporting the show because we support the pro-life cause. So please, patron Casa Bea Cleaning. They're a tremendous organization, whether it's your home or your place of work. They will make sure you're clean and protected from COVID-19 today. All right, on today's show, very excited. If the president calls back, I might have to get it. He calls 4 or 5 times a day. But nonetheless, the first thing I've been talking to the president about is that this COVID relief bill is an absolute sham. And it's really frustrating, to say the least. So this is from March for Life Action. The COVID relief bill would allow for a major influx of tax dollars to support the abortion industry. Why does every bill, the Democrats, whether it's the Equality Act or the COVID relief bill, why does it have to include funding for abortion? Do you think the Democratic Party is a little bit beholden to the special interest group, which is known as the abortion business? Nonetheless, this bill disregards the Hyde and Helms amendments that the vast majority of Americans support, which keeps our taxpayer dollars from going to fund abortions. But now, folks, your money, your taxpayer dollars are going to go fund abortions in this nation. This is the result of electing a president who believes in abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. He promised he would do this, and now he's doing it. And because we as Catholic faithful have abdicated our duty to stand up and to preach the truth from the pulpits and just say, both political parties, they're not everybody's perfect and so on and so forth. We're now allowing a man who claims our faith to lead this country and support an intrinsic evil, an evil which goes against the very tenets of our faith, which says that human life is sacred. Not only that, but only 9% of the tax dollars allocated actually support COVID relief. So I know I'm bad with math and everything, but that means 91% are going to other things beside COVID relief in this bill. So where's the money going? Well, $130 billion on top of the $110 billion already given to schools. Now, even if they have remained closed, unconsciously gives labor unions, including those teacher unions fighting against school reopening, access to PPP funding worth up to $10 million per union. Make sure we pay off the unions as well, even if they're not working, fighting to keep the schools closed. Even if the schools are closed, let's pay them. Provides $350 billion bailout for state and local governments despite limited declines in overall revenue last year. So basically, states, most restrictive states like New York and California, they shut down their entire economy. And now, because they're not getting revenue from taxes, the federal government saying, oh, that's okay, we'll bail you out. Here you go. Here's $350 billion for shutting down your state. Oh, by the way, here's $50 million in funding for EPA environmental justice grants, all for protecting and caring for the environment. But 50 million people, and this is the problem. People think this is just, this is what people do, this is what the government does. We've just become so used to this wasting of our money. And the government is literally $1 trillion now, I think, in debt. I mean, we don't have this money. You can't spend what you don't have. And that's exactly what we're doing. So when the economy collapses and crashes, we can only blame ourselves. All right, let's get to some good news. I need some good news. How about the state of Arkansas? Arkansas is the latest state to pass legislation banning almost all abortions in an effort to prompt the Supreme Court to revisit and overturn Roe v. Wade. Governor Asa Hutchinson on March 9 signed the Senate Bill 6, also known as the Arkansas Unborn Child Protection Act, which bans abortions except when medically necessary to save the life of the mother. That's a term I want to return to at a later show, but the law provides for an unclassified felony for anyone who performs an abortion in the state except in a medical emergency, with a fine up to $100,000, 10 years in prison, or both. The new law does not carry charges or convictions for mothers of unlawfully aborted children. Governor Hutchinson, thank you so much. It's moving the ball forward. If we're not moving the ball forward, then someone is trying to move it back in the other direction. So praise God for that. Number 3, third story. Folks, if these news stories were maybe made more readily available, maybe there'd be more of an outcry as to what we're doing right now as human beings. But in a laboratory in the University of California, San Diego laboratory, they have been creating sesame seed-sized brains from a mix of human and Neanderthal genes, lived briefly in these petri dishes so that they can experiment with them. Okay, now they're doing this using this technology called CRISPR. Now, if you've never heard of CRISPR, I encourage you to look up and to read about this new technology that they're using. CRISPR technology is a powerful tool for editing genomes. It allows researchers to easily alter DNA sequences and modify gene function. So one potential use of the CRISPR is to create gene drives. These are genetic systems which increase the chances of a particular trait passing on from one parent to the offspring. Eventually, over the course of generations, the trait spreads through entire populations. So manipulating the genes in such a way to eradicate what they determine are undesirable genes. So what are some undesirable genes that we've seen our world trying to eradicate today? Perhaps individuals who are mentally challenged. Iceland claiming that they have almost eradicated mentally challenged individuals from their society, and they're just patting themselves on the back for it. When they're aborting them, that's how they're eradicating it. So just a couple questions. Should we make changes that could fundamentally affect future generations without having their consent? Secondly, what if the use of germline editing veers from being a therapeutic tool to an enhancement tool for various human characteristics? Do you see any danger that could come from this, folks? Trying to create a perfect race? This is why we're having problems in the world today, though. Story number 4. Governor Cuomo, we know that he's been implicated in many sexual assault cases right now, and these need to be investigated to the fullest extent possible. Just like if it was against a Republican governor or a Democratic governor, sexual assault allegations need to be taken seriously and listened to and then investigated. So that's going on for Governor Cuomo right now. However, that's also hiding what is just as big of a story here, the fact that he placed COVID-positive patients back into nursing homes, where thousands of nursing home patients then died because that was the policy of the New York State government. Excuse me. Now, part of what they did to try to hide this was they altered the numbers to say, no, there's not actually that many people dying in the nursing homes. And the aide implicated in the embattled New York Governor Cuomo's nursing home scandal, now get this, she taught one of the aides, Linda Lacewell, superintendent of the New York State Department of Financial Services, was one of the several aides that Cuomo had reportedly altered nursing home data to undercount coronavirus deaths. Now, she was an adjunct professor at the New York University of Law, and she taught ethics in government. So the individuals teaching ethics in government, when they then work for the government, are lying. The college university system today, and I've worked on, a college campus and everything. I've been to college campuses, even Catholic schools as well today. It is really hard to find a university which is not indoctrinating its students to values which go completely against how you've tried to raise your young people for the first 18 years of their life. And I think it's part of the reason so many people are losing their faith when they go to college, because they're being fed, quite frankly, a bunch of socialist garbage, atheistic garbage down their throat all the time. And it's no longer a place of freedom of speech. Just this past week in the Supreme Court, a gentleman who tried to preach the gospel on campus was fined by his university, told he couldn't do it. They had limited him to preaching the gospel to 2 days, and then only a couple hours within those 2 days, and only in the little free speech zone. So the Supreme Court in a 8-1 smackdown has said, no, you can't do that. But that's what you're getting on college campuses. You're getting fed socialist and atheistic garbage all day. But then if you want to preach the gospel freely in public, you can do it for 2 hours every 2 days in this little tiny place on campus where nobody walks by. That's what you're getting on college campuses today. And then you're getting adjunct professors such as Miss Lacewell here, and allegedly, so I have to investigate here, but she's teaching ethics in government, but she has allegedly been one of the individuals who have been altering the statistics about how many people actually die in the New York State nursing homes. All of this could cause you some frustration. It causes me frustration. And it might make you want to turn to some nefarious things like marijuana. Number 5th story here. Let me encourage you not to smoke marijuana, though. And our state here in Ohio, I know there's a group of individuals who want to pass legislation that would allow us to, grow more marijuana and everything. And the state of Colorado and these other states have done this as well. This is bad. This is bad policy. So a couple of reasons why we should not legalize marijuana. Number 1, there's a lack of evidence for therapeutic benefit. Number 2, marijuana is the only medication that is smoked, and while still incompletely understood, there are legitimate concerns about long-term effects of marijuana smoke on the lungs. Substantial evidence exists suggesting that marijuana is harmful to the respiratory system as it is associated with symptoms of obstructive and inflammatory lung disease. Number 3, marijuana has been consistently shown to be a risk factor for schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. Number 4, early studies suggested cognitive declines associated with marijuana, especially early and heavy use. These declines persisted long after the periods of acute cannabis intoxication. Number 5, marijuana impairs the ability to judge time, distance, and speed. It slows reaction time and reduces ability to track moving objects. In many studies of drug-related motor vehicle fatalities, marijuana is the most common drug detected, except for alcohol. So there's a lot more we could say about it being a gateway drug to other things. And this is from, you can go to NIH, the National Institute for Health, for these statistics and everything of that nature. But one more reason for us not to allow our state or any other state to legalize this drug. And it's an environmental reason. So get this, legal cannabis production in Colorado emits more greenhouse gases than the state's coal mining industry. Researchers analyzing the sector's energy use have found. The production use of cannabis for medical or recreational reasons is now legal in several U.S. states, which has led to a booming industry. We'll have more on the website concerning looking up on this story. But you have the environmentalists, right, saying we got to stop coal. It's hurting the environment. But then these same states, let's legalize cannabis, and it's worse for the environment than is coal. Wonderful. All right, number 6, on vaccines. Let me say a couple things here. Denmark has just suspended use of the AstraZeneca vaccine over blood clot flares. There's still a lot we don't know about the vaccines. I've had family members who have taken the vaccines. Some of them had reactions after having taken it. Some of them didn't have any reactions. I think it's going to be different for every single person. With that being said, the church has said that these things and the use of the vaccines are morally illicit. I'm a son of the church, and so I follow the church's teachings. However, I am allowed to critique the way that this information is presented and what is emphasized in the presentation of this information. And what I think has not been emphasized in the presentation of this information is the reality of what we're doing, not just with the COVID-19 vaccine, but with all vaccines, and how just like we've come to accept government corruption, just say, well, it's the government, they're just going to do it. It's a swamp and so on and so forth. There's going to be pork belly politics and stuff. We've just come to accept the way that so many of our vaccines, so many of our medicines today, it's not just vaccines, but so many of our medicines today are using aborted fetal cells in their testing. It's why the left was going nuts when the Trump administration started to halt some of the sales of aborted fetus cells because they were coming today. I mean, there is a multi-million-dollar business to extract aborted fetal cells, to get more aborted fetal cells for increased and ultimate continued testing on vaccines and other medicines. You need a continual supply nowadays of fetal cells. Where that's going to come from babies who are being aborted. So we're not just talking about a baby that was aborted way back in 1965. There are cell lines that are being used and replicated that still use that, but we're talking about all our medicines. But because we've just kind of allowed this to go under the rug and we don't have enough time to really talk about it or fight about it, this has continued to exist and it's become standard in medicine today. It's just standard medical testing. Involves testing with aborted fetal cells. It needs to stop. And we need to stand up and say something about it. And thankfully, there's some women who are doing that. We'll put up this link on the website and everything like that. But I want to read you this, just the introductory statement here to this document. It's called The Voice of Women in Defense of Unborn Babies and in Opposition to Abortion-Tainted Vaccine Abortion is the modern-day massacre of the innocents. So this is a group of women worldwide who've come together and said from their motherly heart, look, enough is enough. We can't continue to live this way. And until we start demanding change, things aren't going to change. So we have to do that, whether it's vaccines or any other medicine. We can't continue to support or allow this multi-million-dollar industry of aborting children and then selling their fetal cells to the National Institute of Health, which is doing some of this testing. We can't allow that to continue anymore, folks. I mean, my God, what does God think when he looks down on us and he sees us killing our own children and then selling those children their body parts? And the way that these cells are obtained, the way that they need to be obtained so they can be kept in good condition so that they can be tested on is absolutely grotesque. And that's covered here in this opening statement. So I want to let you know that this might be hard for you to hear, especially if you've had an abortion. I want to let you know that there is hope and healing for you. I invite you to go to hopeafterabortion.com. Get connected in with our local abortion healing ministry, post-abortion care. But folks, this isn't being preached anywhere else, and so we need to preach it here. Let me read you their statement. These women across the world who have come together, and they're standing for, truth when it comes to what are we doing with our young kids. We as women wish our feminine cry to be heard around the world. This declaration comes from the depth of our maternal hearts, which are devoted to defending the cause of life and combating the culture of death. We therefore wholeheartedly affirm we will not be complicit in the modern-day massacre of the holy innocents, and we therefore refuse to accept any and all vaccines made using cells derived from aborted human fetuses. Let me pause there just for a moment. Again, We're talking about remote material cooperation in many of these cases, right? But it doesn't change the fact that initial abortion did happen. And that should cause all of us to pause and just say, that is wrong. That's an evil. That's why the church has called us to say it's a responsibility to let our dissent be known that these vaccines were made in such a negative way, or they were tested in such a negative way. But instead, all we hear is this emphasizing of like, well, this is for the common good, and so on and so forth. And so you have a responsibility to care for one's neighbor. Okay, I'm not discounting that, but again, it's like, what are we emphasizing here when it comes to the vaccines? And there's so much emphasis over here on this side about the common good. What about the common good of the unborn children, which are killed in the development of the vaccines? What about their common good? Yeah, I know it was 1965, maybe in one of these circumstances where the HEK 293 cell line came from. Do you know what that means? It's a human embryonic kidney. So that's a little baby's kidney that we continue to benefit from when it comes to the manufacturing of these vaccines. But nonetheless, the source continues. About 1 in 5 pregnancies worldwide ends in abortion. This is an estimated 40 to 50 million abortions per year. Since the abortion business began in earnest, as many as 2.5 billion unborn babies have been slain in the wombs of their mothers. Just for a moment, let us ponder that figure and try to fathom this fathomless abyss. 2.5 billion preborn children have been slain in the wombs of their mothers since abortion became legal first in 1920 in Russia, or the Soviet Union. The 20th century's exceptionally barbaric cruelty with 2 deadly world wars and even deadlier ideologies does not even approach the immense magnitude of this worldwide massacre of the most helpless of all human beings. How could we not keep this fact firmly in mind as we thoughtfully deliberate as to the morality of vaccines made from cells derived from aborted human fetuses? How can the 2.5 billion preborn children killed not be in the front of our minds when we're talking about these issues? This genocide of the unborn is unthinkable in its magnitude, but it is equally unconscionable in its heinous brutality. The manner of their murder is barbaric beyond belief. Let us place before our mind's eye a few of the preferred surgical abortion methods. Let us picture an unborn baby boy at 9 weeks after conception. Now, again, if you're upset with what I'm saying, I want you to listen very closely to this. Let us picture an unborn baby boy at 9 weeks after conception, when most of the abortions are taking place. He can turn somersaults, frown, and swallow. To abort this unborn boy, a hollow tube with a knife-edged tip is inserted into the mother's womb and is connected to a powerful vacuum, which tears him into small pieces that are sucked into a bottle and discarded. Now let us picture an unborn girl at the end of the 3rd month in her mother's womb. She can and does sometimes cry silently, and she can feel pain. To abort this unborn girl, a pair of forceps is inserted into her mother's womb to grasp and twist off her bones until her body is totally dismembered. Her spine most likely is snapped, and her skull crushed as she is torn from her mother's body. Finally, let us picture an unborn boy at 20 weeks. He can recognize his mother's voice. Most of the country, 20 weeks abortion, still legal in this country. To abort him, the doctor inserts a long needle into the mother's abdomen and ejects a strong salt solution which he swallows. The corrosive poison burns him inside and out. Within a day, his mother will actually give birth to her dead or dying baby. Many such babies have been born alive and then left unintended to die. This is a death more cruel than that of the children sacrificed in Gehenna, the valley near Jerusalem where the ancient Israelites once sacrificed their own children, burning them alive in the hands of the Canaanite idol Moloch. Their fires of infanticide consumed them more rapidly than today's tiny victims. It is icy cold in Moloch's hands today. The little boy shivers until he is silent and still, lying in a pool of blood that quickly chills. Once swaddled warmly in the womb, he now lies lifeless in a sterile room, naked from head to toe, with no one to mourn or weep for him. It's the greatest evil this world has ever encountered. Evil has found its most perfect victim, a silent, unborn child with no voice, no one to cry out for justice for him, no one to say, please stop. And we go around accepting these vaccines and accepting our medications and accepting these bills from our legislators, which are funding abortions across our nation. And we get barely a peep from our leaders. Folks, it's up to our leaders, it's up to us, it's up to all of us to end the massacre of the innocents. As Catholic citizens, this is our primary duty, to defend human life. I say no more. I commit today, once again, to abolish abortion in my lifetime. Join me. We'll see you next week on The Catholic Citizen.
This show and all media on Awaken Catholic is made possible by the Awaken Nation and the Hallow app. The Awaken Nation is a community of people like you who support all things Awaken for as cheap as a cup of coffee a week and get access to exclusive content. Learn more by visiting awakencatholic.org/donate. Hallow is the only audio-guided Catholic prayer app focused on contemplative prayer and traditional Catholic meditation such as Lectio Divina, Daily Examen, and the Rosary. We here at Awaken all use Hallow every day and love it. To learn more or give it a try, visit hallow.app/awaken.